Chapter 4. An Actor's Life for Me. I went to Newcastle College when I left school. The place had just started off a drama course there, so I had time to waste on my quest to become famous. I started in September 1988 and I was studying for a BTEC diploma. You might laugh at this, but the bloke who ran the course, Gerard, used to be Bungle in Rainbow. That was his claim to fame, and he turned out to be a great guy. Although we were based at Newcastle College, we would rehearse at the Time Theatre on Westgate Road. Now, I've got to be honest here. The only reason my early acting career didn't work was down to me. I went to college and I met up with some great new friends. To be truthful, nobody on my course went on to make it big in the acting game. My best mates from that period were Adrian Stones and Toby Cooper. Adrian went into the leisure industry and Toby continued to do a little bit of acting, but then went into the retail industry. Unfortunately, we became the first people to get suspended off the course. We were always doing silly things. On a morning before class, we would hide amongst the boxes and rails of costumes, and when someone walked in, we'd throw a large blanket over the unsuspecting victim, and then the lads would push, grab, and put them in a wheelchair and push them into a lift that we'd been told not to use. There was no badness in us at the time, but I'd be constantly messing around and never took anything seriously. I was just a lad being a lad. I wasn't impressing anyone. The college suspended me and the lads for a full week, but I didn't tell my parents. What I did was just continue to leave the house at my usual time and just spend the days walking around the city centre of Newcastle. At this time I was 16 going on 17 and I'd started going out underage drinking, dabbling with recreational drugs, and the female sex had become a lot more interesting than ever before. In regards to the drugs, I was never a druggie, but I did dabble. Back in 1988 there wasn't a great deal of drugs around apart from ease and cannabis. Certainly not as many as there is today in 2020. Luckily, I've never had an addictive personality. At the time, I was mostly just drinking and it was all a learning curve. I was growing up. Around the Christmas time of 1988, a local company were looking for people to star in a pantomime that would tour all the working men's clubs around the North East, and it was a paid part. To get in there was an audition process that I had to go through. I went and cast for the pantomime dame, which was one of the main parts, but I never got it. The guy who did get it was a guy called Sean Meachin, but for some reason he pulled out. So I got a call back asking if I'd now like to play the dame. I had a chat with my mum and dad about it first, and when I got back to the company I was told that I'd get an equity card, which meant that I would be part of the Actors Union. Basically, this card was meant to hold some magic powers if you were a young budding actor like myself, and it would help to build up my profile. Another thing I was promised was X amount of money for 50 shows over a 25-day period. With my earlier acting experience, learning the lines came easy to me and I got on well with the other actors, but the harsh reality was that at the time I never took into consideration just how much hard work it was going to be. And doing a couple of days in a row where we were doing up to 2 or 3 shows a day. I'd get picked up at 6:30 a.m. to go to Washington, then we'd have to unload the van, do all the setup which was required for the play. Then before our play we'd do a rehearsal. Full dress rehearsal, in full makeup and under the lights. All our mics were spot on. Then we'd finish around midday. Then we'd have to pack up, do the same again in the next venue. Not going to lie, all this newfound slave labour annoyed us, and I was getting peanuts for it as well. As an actor, I thought it was going to do drama and not humping heavy set boxes around. The money I was getting for those long days was just ludicrous. Not to mention I got ripped off and the promise of my equity card never materialised. For the 50-odd shows that I ended up doing, I received £500, which even in 1989, if you spread that out over the cost of the shows, was nothing. I suppose I just wanted to become an actor for so long, but at the end of it all, I felt totally disillusioned by the game. I'd left school with a few qualifications, and now I was scratching my head, thinking, what on earth can I do? I walked off the college course, something I would regret in later life.